In my zone, say that we been beefing, dog, but you on your own. First night, she gon' let me fuck cause we grown. I hit her, gave her back to the city, she home.
What's good? It's your boy Goat Gaming, back here again. And today, we're gonna be discussing someone in NBA history who I think is very underappreciated. And as you can see from the highlights, and probably from the thumbnail, and maybe the video title, we're going to be talking about who I think is the most underappreciated player in NBA history. Isiah Thomas, of the Detroit Pistons, of course. So when you think of the word underappreciated, it's not the same as underrated, because I don't think anybody is really saying he was bad. It's just that they don't see the level of work that, you know what? When you think about Isiah Thomas, he's the second greatest 80s point guard. I mean, he also changed the style of the game. He made it cool for little boys and girls all around to dribble. Dribbling was really, even Magic Johnson in the half court offense, he didn't really do any flashy dribbling. He did flashy passes, but he wasn't really about flashy dribbling. That was Isiah Thomas. And when I tell you he had a lethal mid-range jumper, he was the king of mid-range jumpers. And in his whole career, there's many instances when he has said he's been screwed out of things, such as an MVP or being on the dream team. But here's a quick clip of Isiah Thomas talking about how underappreciated he is.
You were a better player.
Well, I'm going to say they screwed me in 80, in 89, and 90. I was first team All-NBA. And after that, I got voted second team behind Stockton every year and was kicking y'all everybody in the league. I was giving to all you.
Yeah.
I had the best record in the league, and I got this to prove it. I'm not getting no MVP.
That was on the show Open Court. I don't know if they really make episodes anymore, but it was a show on NBA TV, around when LeBron was in Miami. And basically, they just talked about topics, historic topics, current topics. It was a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. But Isiah Thomas would always talk about how he was in as many first teams as he would like, or he didn't win an MVP. But I don't even think it's just that. Look at this man's resume and tell me he's not a top 5 point guard of all time. People are putting Russell Westbrook and Stephen Curry ahead of him. I mean, listen to this. Isiah Thomas is a 2-time NBA champion, 1989 and 1990, an NBA Finals MVP in 1990, 12-time All-Star from 1982 to 1993, 2-time NBA All-Star Game MVP, 84 and 86, 3-time All-NBA First Team, 84 and 86. 84 through 86. 2-time All-NBA Second Team, 1983 and 1987. NBA All-Rookie First Team, 1982. And he was the NBA Assist Leader in 1985. And he had around 18,000 points. But Isiah Thomas has one of the greatest resumes ever. Even the Isiah Thomas of today's age, he was named after the Isiah Thomas of the Pistons. His dad put a bet on who would win the NBA Finals in either 89 or 90, and he named his son after him. That was the agreement. But imagine at 6'1", 180 pounds, Isiah Thomas was literally, he had high expectations from the beginning. At the second overall pick in 1981, a year after everybody saw what Magic Johnson did in LA, and he lived up to those expectations. And don't get me started about how the bad boy Pistons and Isiah Thomas killed Jordan and the Bulls so many years in a row. They couldn't even get out the East until 1991. That's Jordan's 7th year in the league. But, hey, you know, people, sometimes they don't appreciate generational talent. That's what Isaiah Thomas was. You know how people talk about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, how they're going to be generational talent? Isaiah Thomas was a generational talent. And sometimes people don't stop and think, and just, how many point guards have won 2 championships with, how many players in the East have come out the East and beat one of the greatest players in dynasties ever 2 times in the NBA Finals? Sure, he lost once. But imagine Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid this year, or next year, coming out and beating the Golden State Warriors, which is the dynasty of our era. What would you think? Would you think, wow, that Ben Simmons kid is already one of the greatest players we have ever seen from a talent perspective and a winning perspective? Would you say that about Joel Embiid, even though he's injury prone, as well as Ben Simmons, but not really? Isaiah Thomas was that guy, and Joe Dumars was too. I mean, don't let me get started on them. And Bill Laimbeer, he was a pretty good defensive player for the time, but he is a bit overrated because the defense was more physical back then, and he took advantage of that. But their teams are pretty good, but their defense was really, really, really what helped them win NBA Finals. And Isaiah Thomas was pretty good at defense. Even though that doesn't define a player, was Magic or Bird amazing at defense? It's just that sometimes people don't appreciate the talents that we get to see in basketball. But hey, you can't wait, because one day you'll see what you missed.
Buddha bless this beat.
AP on me iced out, tennis chains iced out, whole pointers round my neck, looking like a lighthouse. Little nigga pipe down, chopper make it pipe down. Running man, catch me